Will I be taking this in my backpack? Probably not. And the reason for that is in today's video I'm going to be looking at what makes the perfect cooking knife in the outdoors. So the other day I got a new knife through the post. Stupidly, when I was ordering it, I noticed that, well, I didn't notice, that's the point. I didn't really look at the size of it, and it's massive. It's like an actual chef's knife. So this isn't going to be a knife review, but it did make me think, well, actually, what do I want in a knife while cooking in the outdoors? So I'm going to look at a lot of the knives I own and talk about the elements of each that I like, that I wish they could combine to make one uber knife. Most of us, as we are outdoors people, will have a knife. We'll have a multi-tool on us, or some sort of bushcraft knife, or some kind of knife. My point about this video is that it's a specific knife for cooking. I will carry my other knife either on my belt or in my pack because I don't always want to use the knife on my multi-tool. I just want a designated knife that stays with my cook set. So let's talk about the one here. This is the knife on the Gerber Complete. It'll cut through soft things. It's not a knife that I'm going to be prepping food with. Good for eating food with, but not prepping food with. It needs to be sharp. It needs to be a knife, a proper knife, not one that's made into the edge of a spatula. Now, I think we're going to look at a more traditional style of flick knife. Nice size, though I would say the trouble with this one is that the blade isn't quite right for cooking. I like a nice flat blade. The tip here is good for rolling, so you can roll as you chop, if that's how you do it, well, which is a very good way of doing it. Also, it's a very thick edge on that blade, and then it's got two angles which make it harder for controlling the food when you cook. So you can obviously use this one, it'd be more than good enough, but it's not perfect, and that's what we're after. That's what I'm after, perfection. Another note on this knife is I really like the shape of the handle. It's very ergonomic. Unfortunately, it's a bit broken at the moment, so I need to send it off. But the handle is very ergonomic. It feels really good in the hand, really good to use in different ways. Quick one while you're here, I've got my cookbook, and if you want a free copy of the e-cookbook version of this, please go below where you'll see a link and you sign up to my mailing list. If you don't want to be in a mailing list, just get the free cookbook, unsubscribe and run. But I will promise you that I don't actually use the mailing list much. I try to aim for 2 months or so between posts, offer tips, hints, advice, links, thoughts, feelings, the usual stuff, but it won't be so regular that you start feeling anxious about your inbox and it being me pestering you. Now, next up, and this so far this is my go-to cook set knife at the moment, and it is my opinel. This is the smaller opinel, this is my larger opinel, and these are really good. They've got a flat blade all the way along, so there's no bevels cut in, and they're relatively thin all the way along, so you can get a good control over your cutting and your prep. It's quite important for me because it means I can be a bit faster and a bit safer. The biggest size that I own is a stainless steel blade. Looks real nice, you can get an edge on it well, but it doesn't hold its edge very well. The smaller one I have has carbon steel, which you can get an edge on really well, and it holds its edge incredibly well. I really love carbon steel for cooking in the outdoors. And the opinel this is my go-to. It's really small, has a lock, folds down, fits nicely into my cook set. This is hard to beat for me. I think what I might do is buy a bigger version of the bigger version with the carbon steel, because that's still pretty small, still folds up nice, ergonomic handles, tried and tested, opinel knives, cheap, cheerful, quite incredible. Now I have this from Whitby Knives. I thought that this was the one because I thought it was small, But there are different things I don't necessarily like about this. The thickness of the blade being one of them, and again it's got different bevels, different shapes. It's a nice everyday carry knife, a really useful knife, quite ergonomic. Looks like a knife that from the Jetsons, but it's the thickness of that side compared to that side, and the fact that it's got an angle cut into it makes it not perfect for me for cooking. But again, this is more than usable. It doesn't have a lanyard hole, which I would say is another element I sometimes think about. Even though often it stays in my cook set, it's nice to know that you can have a lanyard hole in case you need it in a knife. This one doesn't. It has a belt clip but no lanyard hole, so that goes against it. Same with the opinel, but with the opinel I've drilled a hole through the end so I can actually put a lanyard in that now. Right, so all of this leads me to the Messermeister cuisine knife. Look at the size of it. It is literally a 12-inch chef's knife. And it's a really nice knife. And I want to talk about the elements that I love about this knife. And the one thing that makes it imperfect for what I need it for when heading into the outdoors for cooking. First, ergonomic handle. I like the ergonomics of the handle. It feels good. It's well balanced, so it should be balanced roughly around the centre of the knife. A bit reticent to try it too much because I'm going to drop it on the floor and break it, but there we go. It's pretty close to the centre of that balance, which means it's going to feel good and not work your wrist too hard. It's got the nice shape along here so you can roll it for cutting and prep. But I mean, this is for prepping proper meals, which is great. But it's just a chef's knife. That's great because it's got a sheath, so lots of benefits to it. Nice smooth maple handle, locks into place, and if you want you can actually open it and close it with one hand, which is important for some people. I'm not so bothered. It's carbon steel. That side compared to that side is not too different, so there's a nice flat blade, the thickness is perfect, and it's a nice shape, so you can roll it, you can chop it, you could use this knife for pretty well anything, which is quite amazing, really. Also they've taken cleanliness into mind, so I don't know if you can see, but the handle goes all the way through, so when this closes, that's the downside to the opinel, is it can catch grime and dirt and nasty stuff inside that groove, whereas this goes right through so you can wash it through, which is pretty cool. A nice wide blade is what I'm looking for in a knife. This helps again with cutting and prep and guiding the cut. So that obviously has this one, but that is because it's massive. So will I be taking this in my backpack? Probably not, and the reason for that is purely its size. If they had this one, even that, just the size of the handle is a big knife, but if this folded into that and was sort of a similar shape and still balanced with the ergonomic handle of that, I'd be really interested in that. And obviously with the hygienic elements in this handle, that is what I'm after. I'm after this, maybe with a more Japanese style edge, because that's the knives I have at home, I'm used to it, and smaller. That would be my perfect knife. But is this a bad knife? No, it's actually an amazing knife, and it's become my go-to knife at home. And I will be using this car camping, and I'll be using this whenever I stay away from home in an Airbnb or a B&B or a place that I can prep my own food. You usually get a really crap set of kitchen knives, whereas this one, now I can take this with me. But it's probably going to live in my camper van, because now I can have a safe stowage of a really sharp and good knife that I can clean well in my camper van. So those are some elements that I look for when looking for a cooking knife in the outdoors. Let's have a recap. The things I'm looking for in a knife are ergonomic handle and a well balanced knife so as to be nice for my hands, my grip, my wrist. I'm looking for a flat blade that's wide. I'm looking for a roll edge so I can roll my cut or use it for more intricate things and for chopping. I'm looking for a hygienic handle. This one's amazing for that, so you can wash right through it. I'm looking for it to easily stow into itself, but I'm looking for it to be a little smaller than this and a little more lightweight. Anyway, that's what I ordered. I didn't read the spec, so it's massive, but it's turned out being a really good purchase that I will use in my camper van. Cheers and gone.